Hey guys, welcome to That Pedal Show. Dan here.
Mick here, hello. And we're jamming.
We be jamming!
Just like if we were in our bedrooms.
Well, yeah.
Like 25 years ago. Maybe 30 years ago. No, 25 years ago.
Yeah, 25 years ago.
Yeah, okay. So
Let's not be silly.
this video might be called Bedroom Tones, but it might be called Playing at Low Volume.
So, we've been... I think one of the questions that we get a lot, one of the comments that we get a lot is how we get such great sounds. And the simple answer to that is we play at decent volumes in here. We get real amps and things are working and it sounds great. But not only is that not always appropriate, it's rarely appropriate, really. Most of the times that we, whether we're practicing or certainly every time you play at home, there's no way that you'll be able to play at the volumes that we play at.
How much guitar do you play at home, Dan?
I play quite a bit.
Oh, do
actually.
you?
Yeah.
What, plugged in?
I have been recently. Okay. One of the things that we'll get to, since I had the little Yamaha at home, I play at home all the time.
Yep.
And especially when I was getting ready for the Japanese gigs, I had that at
Dan's Japanese tour with the popular beat combo Tin Spirits.
It was fascinating.
Yep.
Being able to do that at low volume. So what we thought is we would show you guys some great ways to be able to be inspired and play but at a volume that's not going to upset anyone.
Yeah, food for thought on what to do at home. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I live in a street which has neighbours, and therefore I don't play the guitar at home really. And if I ever do, I'm usually plugged into something like you can see on the screen there with headphones on, or I'm playing so quietly that it's barely perceptible. So here we are every week on That Pedal Show, playing at pretty much gig volume, getting really great guitar sounds. Can you do that at home? No, you can't. So what can you do at home and what different approaches are there? So that's where we'll begin. We've got two setups today. So the first half of the video will be with two particular approaches and then we'll go up from there. So the first two are a computer software system and also Yamaha THR small digital amplifier.
Yep.
And then we'll move on to using bigger amps. So THR, Dan?
Right, so this little Yamaha THR, now the amp itself is a stereo amplifier. We've only got one mic on it today, but you get the idea. But the thing I love about this amplifier is that it's so tiny, but it still sounds big. So like just the amplifier, just by itself, no pedals or anything. Now, even at that volume, I'm probably pushing it for home use.
Yeah, and just to put some perspective on that, as you'll see on the pedal board there, we've got a dB sound meter. Now, clearly it's not the same as having the dB sound meter 1 meter in front of the amp pointing directly at it, but this is, to give you some idea of the perspective, that's about 7 feet away from the amp. So, and it's registering. We're going to try and not go over 80 dB. Measured 7 feet away. So as Dan says, that's probably too loud for a lot of homes. But that's going to be our maximum. So we'll be well within that.
Sure.
And if you just play a sec, Dan. So here I am talking, and there is absolutely no way we could ever do that with the amps on full blast because there's a microphone here, which is our voice mic, and that's not even touching that. That amplifier isn't even touching that. Give it a whack. So we could, if we wanted, we could leave that mic up for the whole of this thing, but it wouldn't sound great, so we won't do that. But
you get the idea.
To put that in perspective, if we were using our normal loud amps, that mic would be absolutely way overloaded, even just by doing that.
Yep.
Now, interestingly then, so you saw that we were going to about 75 dB there. I'm going to play this guitar as loud as I possibly can, not plugged in.
There you go.
So this Gretsch acoustic guitar, played acoustically near the sound meter, will give out as much acoustic volume as we're getting from the amp. So hopefully that gives you some perspective as to how loud we are in the room,
Yeah.
i.e. not very.
Now, it's not to say that the amp doesn't go louder than that. It does. It absolutely does. But in this context, we're keeping it really quiet.
And we're using like a really nice condenser microphone. So instead of the usual dynamic mics that we use, because of the lower volumes, you get more idea of the sound if you use a decent condenser mic. So that's what we're using today instead of our normal dynamic mics.
Sure. So with a setup like this, and this is where I think, for me personally, this is where digital works brilliantly in this sort of environment. The amplifier itself, I've just got it set on the clean channel at the moment, really basic EQ and a touch of reverb. So with the straight in sound, and what that means is when I put on the pedals on the board, add a bit of hoo-ha.
What did you add in there? Reverb and delay?
So added reverb and delay and a little bit of compression.
Yeah.
Now this is exactly what I did when I was getting ready to get the board and everything together for the tour. I had this amp at home and I had the board plugged in and I was practicing all my parts and stuff exactly as this. It worked fantastic. So, you know, pedal board plugged in, brilliant. But also, what I loved about this amplifier is that if I just wanted to, if I had an idea for a song or whatever and I just wanted to have a play, you can plug directly in and have a whole bunch of different sounds. So just...
There you go, you play, I'll tweak.
All right, so this is... So without any effect from the board, now if you just hit number 2 for me, so this is just a little tremolo.
So it enables you to store 5 presets,
Yep.
and all of those sounds are coming from the amp. There's no pedals involved.
No pedals
whatsoever.
at all.
Got any others stored in?
Yeah, go to number 3.
Is that just the drive coming from the amp?
Just the amp. It's great.
That sound, okay, I'll tell you what that sounds like in my ears here. Is it sounds like a big amp mic'd up and played back through speakers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this uses a sort of a process that Yamaha developed to model amplifiers. Now, what you do need to be careful with, the EQ controls in this are drastic. So be careful of the treble control.
Yeah.
Because it can get a bit fizzy if you turn it up. But if you get it just right, it's lush. Let's say I get that sound and I want to add a bit of delay and reverb to that. I can literally just dial it in.
So on the top there, obviously we'll do a sweep over of the amp top panel, but
there's a tempo control on there, and so you can. But for a tiny little thing that is so easy to dial sounds in, I can plug in and just have a play.
Yep.
If I've got 5 minutes to myself, I just want to have a tinker, I don't have to set anything up, bang, I'm there.
it's done.
It's great. I really, really like it.
It takes up no room.
No room.
It's tiny.
I love the way it looks.
The wife doesn't mind having it around.
Absolutely. It looks like, in the house, it doesn't look like there's all the furniture.
Backline.
And there's my amp.
Yeah.
That I've bought in from, so my wife absolutely does not mind having that on the shelf.
Yeah.
It's really great.
We have a tentative rule in our house: no backline.
Right.
So, backline is for rehearsals, gigs, and that pedal show,
Right.
and stuff at home is anyway. Blah blah blah. Okay,
Yeah.
so THR. There are other small digital modelling combos available. Obviously, Line 6, huge. Blackstar, huge in that market. But as a fine example of the breed, what I absolutely love about that is that there is no complication.
No.
You can
Not
get
at
a
all.
load of great sounds just from the top panel.
Yep.
And as we know, we don't like complication, which brings us on.
I just so one last quick thing. With the big amps that we use, the sound of the big amps is a combination of the speaker driving, the output transformer working, the valves working, and with these smaller digital things, it's simply if you imagine those speakers are like a PA speaker, and they're a full frequency speaker, and all of the sound is just coming from.
Yeah, there is absolutely zero of the movement and feel
Yep.
and excitement that you get with the big amp. There's absolutely none of that.
None
It's
of it.
simply not there.
No,
But
that's
the
right. Sound is great.
is bang on.
Yep.
Isn't
And in that environment,
Yeah.
it's perfect. So
And,
yeah.
and let it also be said that we'll come on to amps in a minute, but you're also not getting it out of a proper amp at that volume either. It's just not
Oh
happening.
no, that at that volume in a proper amp, it just sounds like.
Well, we're going to come
We'll
on
get
to
there.
that.
We'll get there. We'll get
Okay,
there. Okay.
right. So moving on. As you can see from the screen here, hello. I've got IK Multimedia's Amplitube 4 loaded up, which is this is actually Amplitube Max. And for anyone who's not familiar with this, what it is it's either a standalone or a host application. So you can use it on its own, or if you're using something like Logic or GarageBand or Cubase or whatever it is you use for recording, you can use it as a plugin within that. So it's a vast selection of amps,
Wow.
pedals, speakers, and just to show you that. Okay, so let's say I want to tune my guitar. I can do that. I can go to a little batch of stomp
Look at
boxes
that.
here, and so as you can hear, I've got an Echoplex.
Nice.
There's also a load of reverb on there, which I'll just take off a minute, just so you know what you are listening to. Spring reverb, take that off. So an Echoplex emulation. And that's just one of many, 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 many stomp boxes available.
Wow.
Recognise that?
I do indeed.
Turn down a bit, we're pushing the level.
You turn the peak up on that. There.
Just turn that off a sec. How do I turn it off?
Button underneath. There's a foot switch underneath.
Yes, there we go. So literally we could be there all day choosing a million different things, pedals. Not only that, but IK's teamed up with various famous manufacturers, Fender, Full Tone,
There's an OCD on there.
yeah. Always too much bass on these things. Actually, I should explain what I'm playing through as well.
I want to try that with a real OCD. Sorry. So
So, It's really hard to tell because it's so quiet.
Yeah. And the amplifier you've got set up is completely different
Yeah,
to this thing. But anyway,
yeah.
very good.
And
very
just before
good.
we move on, I'm actually playing through a Line 6 stage source, which is a PA cabinet. Now, you could be using studio monitors, you could be using like a sound dock thing you use to play your iPod through.
Headphones?
You could be using headphones, which of course is a whole different listening experience.
Wow.
So anyway, let's just turn the OCD off a sec. Back to the amps, and similarly, we've got Amplitude's own kind of, brown face Fender, black face Fender, whatever that is, and I don't know, it's called Custom Solid State Clean.
Oh, yeah.
And on we go, on we go, on we go, on we go. Metal stuff. You might recognise that, Dan. Just to explain, I'm plugged through the IK Multimedia iRig Pro Duo, which is just an audio interface which enables me to plug the guitar into the computer and also monitor it. And it's also what we're going to be using when we start doing our Facebook Live posts.
Ah, very good.
Which is a separate thing. But it's got a master volume on here which just helps me turn things up and down. So... Again, it's impossible to tell because all we can hear is the blooming guitar. the acoustic sound of the guitar. Anyway, on we go, on we go, on we go, on we go, on we go. All these amps, millions of amps, millions of amps, millions of amps. Bass amps, blah, blah, blah. Right, next thing is you've got tons and tons and tons of insert effects, which could be anything from delays, graphic EQs, compressors, filters, chorus.
This is after the amp.
This is
right?
basically in your effects loop. So here's a step filter. Because who doesn't need one of those in their life? Okay, and not only that, but as you'll gather from the interface there, you can have two lines of everything.
Right.
So you could have two separate signal paths for A and B rigs.
Right. In parallel.
In parallel, yeah.
Right.
Right, and then it gets even crazier as we move on to the speaker cabinets.
No way. Oh my goodness.
It's absolutely nuts. So that's a bass cab. Here we go, another bass cab, another bass cab, another bass cab. It automatically selects the one that's kind of most appropriate when you change the amps. And then you select, if you want to customize from there, you can. 4x12s, obviously, different kinds of 4x12s.
Dr. Z.
Dr. Z. And then even kind of crazier, you can change the mic position. So here we go, we can just move the mic. We can move it closer to the speaker or further away, and more on the cone or less on the cone. And you can also change the microphone itself.
Okay, that's amazing. How do you know, though, it's actually going to sound like it would be with those big diaphragm microphones on a Dr. Z?
Well, you don't. I mean, they've obviously modelled everything. But
Right.
what it is it's just the nth level of tone tweakery.
Yeah, it is.
So... Oh, hang on, let's get rid of our harmonizer off there. So So here's both mics on right on the cone of the speaker. And then here's both mics off the cone of the speaker. Okay, so as regular viewers of the show will know, I am tremendously technophobic. I hate having to get into things and having to worry about it. This is so intuitive. It's just easy. Really? I didn't have to read the manual. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't even have to watch the intro video. I can just get in here and move stuff around, and it makes total and complete sense to me. And just to finish off, in here you've got a whole bunch of presets. So preset sounds that they've set up. So for example, American Dirty Tremolo, let's do that. This is giving us no stomp boxes. It's giving us a boogie, Mark III boogie by the looks of things, American Clean Mark III. And the tremolo's presumably some sort of opto. Oh yeah, it's an opto tremolo that's in the loop. On from there, complete rigs. Here we go. Let's do something silly. Let's go lead. God, you see how you can just get totally lost because there's so much in here.
Are these signature rigs?
Some of them are, because you can kind of tell by the name of the. So that one's called One Vision, for example. So I would expect.
Very good.
So, and on it goes, and it literally. Clearly, I don't know how Passion and Warfare goes.
Very good. That's very, very impressive.
Cue the comments.
Very good, mate.
On it goes, on it goes, on it goes, on it goes. And they are, I mean, there's even, this might surprise you. So if you have a look in here, you've got all these collections. Amplitude Jimi Hendrix, anyone? So Amplitude Jimi Hendrix. Somewhere in here it says something about collections. As you see, we've got Fender, Jimi Hendrix, Mesa Boogie, Metal, Orange Slash. Jimi Hendrix, check this out. Discography presets. Let's go for well, Are You Experienced? Why not then? Oh no, Foxy Lady. And it gives you intro to
no way.
The chorus, Bold as Love. Oh my god, it just goes on and on and on. Purple Haze, please, 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 Purple Haze somewhere. Oh, Manic Depression, no way.
Okay.
So we've done. You could go on for literally ever. Fuzz. Something Marshally. Nothing in the insert. 4x12 vintage cab.
Right.
Obviously. So I think the reality of this is that you probably find 2 or 3 things that you really love. And that's what you use. And if you,
I don't know, dude. There's so much in there. I think for the tweakers,
yeah. Oh, of course.
Is you know, the thing that I'm concerned about is that does it actually help you play guitar? Do you know what I mean? Because you spend so long
Yeah.
around, and it is. Don't get me wrong, it is amazing.
Yeah.
But what I would be doing is like going through all those. Oh, you know, there's whoever sound that is, and then try to, and it's incredible. What I like about this is a plug in and play.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
because I get 5 minutes at a time.
Yeah. The other
You
thing,
know?
of course, is what's required for that is this
Yep.
and this
Yes.
and that.
Yep. And that's it.
And that's it. What's required for this is
You've got,
it will work on iPhone. I mean, there are versions of it for phone and for tablet.
Yep.
But you need a computing device. You need an audio interface, although you can plug straight in if you've got the right adapter.
Yep.
And you need something to listen to it through, which is either headphones or... So I guess it's not that much more complicated.
No, I tell you where I see this being awesome though is when you're songwriting or you're doing stuff on your computer and you just need to grab an appropriate guitar sound. It's
Yeah,
like-
of course. What I haven't mentioned at all is that this is a massive, great recording system as well. So it's got
like amplitude.
all these recording channels.
You can actually record within amplitude
Yeah,
itself.
yeah. Look,
You're
recorder.
kidding.
There's all this playhead and stuff down here. Look,
Wow.
transport controls.
Okay. It's
And
very
it's got
good.
a fairly serious looper as well.
Very
so
good.
it's there are various versions of Amplitude
Right.
as a piece of software, but yeah, it's
It's amazing.
Yeah.
No question.
so
Amazing.
much in it. And of course, there are other software manufacturers,
Yeah.
so it's not the only option. But in the context of quiet sounds at home, bedroom tones, it's
Right.
a really viable option.
Okay. Let's get to part 2. Let's get the analog stuff set up now.
Yeah.
And we'll crack on with that.
We'll see you presently.
Okay, so we're back and we've got some amplifiers set up. Now, first thing I want to have a look at is an obvious solution for a lot of people. It's just a small valve amp. So we've got the bass breaker set up here.
Yeah, Fender Bassbreaker 15, which is currently my favourite small amp. It's loud enough to gig with, but it's also quiet enough to, I mean, it's probably too loud for a home amp, but you can use it as a home amp.
So when we say it's too loud for a home amp,
Yeah.
and people are going to say, well, why can't you just turn it down?
Maybe we could explore that, Daniel. Of course you can. Of course you can. And that's what we've done in this situation. So as you'll see, I've got it set on the low range. It's got a three-way gain kind of global gain thing, which is ACE actually. But here it is in its clean setting. So we're reading a little tiny bit more than we were on the digital amps. I don't know whether that's a transient thing. Certainly doesn't sound any louder. So if I'm playing, oh, actually, it is. No, it is louder.
It is louder.
We're gonna have to turn down, mate.
Yeah.
Sorry, getting caught up in cables here. Right, down we go.
That's it.
So, gone down. So weird because we're so used to playing loud in here. So there we go, and now I can talk. I mean, the acoustic sound of the guitar is
Louder than the amp.
pretty much louder than the amp.
Yeah.
So there we go. Sounds pretty good. Give me
great
some sugar, or some other. So what's this? The page.
Page.
Pushing the volume there. Bit of tube boost in the front. Have loads of reverb. You could get lost in that, couldn't you?
Bit of compression on that as well.
You could easily. One of the challenges of playing at low volume is it's hard to feel anything, and you don't get the feedback through the guitar. But the compression there just gave the impression of an increased dynamic range, even though it's actually a compressor reduces your dynamic range. Yeah. Of course it does. That's something we've slipped up on in videos in the past. But no, it gives you the impression of an increased dynamic range because you get more out of what you're playing.
Yeah, instead of the volume going up as you pick harder, that compression, the gain blooms and it gives you this lovely feel under your fingers. It's lovely.
And then just to finish off with this amp, then give me some OCD on there. Good inspiring sound.
Yep.
Again, all I can hear sat here is the guitar. So, in fact, just before we move on, and I'm sorry to keep doing this, but just before we move on, let's try a solid body guitar so it isn't quite so loud, given that that's what everyone's going to be screaming at the screen right now. Play a solid body!
Mega.
Nothing wrong with that sound.
Awesome.
That's a real guitar sound, but quiet.
Yeah.
And again, even though it's not a semi-acoustic guitar, I can hear the clack of the strings big time, which I personally find really off-putting. Actually, as a matter of fact, did you know? Of course you know. On a lot of old recordings, they would do that. They would put a mic.
They would. I know that it's an old XTC trick. Andy used to use it all the time. That has
really?
in the control room that have a microphone on his electric guitar, and they'd mix that in
just to give a bit more clack.
But you'll hear it. There's a lot of you hear a lot of YouTube videos where they're just recording the, guys playing, and the condenser mic in the camera is actually picking up a lot of the acoustic sound of the strings.
Yeah.
And it's
what's all that clack?
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, so an example of using a small amp with nice pedals, absolutely, why not? We were fighting a little bit to keep it down under the 80 dB there, measured here.
Yeah. So now I've got, it's actually, in wattage terms, it's really not that much bigger, but with the Hampstead, I generally like the Hampstead breaking up a little bit. I don't have it set so clean, though the clean sound is great. But to get that sound under the decibel reading, we've had to have it so incredibly quiet. I mean, it's all of that beautiful, rich harmonics and stuff that this amp has just gone.
One thing I could never understand about Hot Rod Deluxes is if you go onto forums, you read on a forum that people couldn't. There'd be a position between off and 1. And they'd want something in between because as soon as it's on, it's too loud. And I never understood that because I've never used a Hot Rod Deluxe at home.
Right.
I understand it perfectly now because that's what we were.
Which took about 5 minutes, didn't it, to get it to the point where it's just on, so that it's not. So, I'm so excited about this.
Well, before we get onto that, give us some sounds.
Okay, right. So that's the clean sound. And the preamp is on. You hear it's not so clean. So I'm going to put a bit of the page into that. Just.
I put the headphones on because I just need to make sure it's actually recording, because I'm looking at the level meters there and it's barely showing, and I can't hear it. All I can hear is his plectrum on his strings. So these headphones tell me that it is actually recording.
Right. So,
Good sounds.
great sounds. I mean, great pedals into a great amplifier. But when you're used to that thing on stage,
Yeah.
turned up, and it's just, the harmonics are crazy, and it's doing its thing. So at the moment, the only thing we're hearing there is front end. We're not hearing any power amp stuff. We're not hearing any transformer stuff. We're hearing no speaker. Just that front end. So,
Turn it up to where you had it before. This will probably overload the mic, but
right.
whatever.
This
We're going to work with it.
Okay.
And you'll be able to see the dB meter.
I've turned the knob up. Not even.
Yeah. Little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Right, so.
Keep going, because you were up about.
Right, well, I would play with it there.
Yeah. So there you go. What happened there was you could see by the dB meter that we've added 25 dB of volume, which if you understand how decibels work, it's a logarithmic scale. So it was an extra amount of.
Yeah.
And we went from barely audible, where I could hear the clack of his strings, and which probably wouldn't get you kicked out of the house, to pretty much gig volume.
Yeah.
Or thereabouts.
Yeah.
I turned down the sensitivity of the mic into the recorder, so by the time you get to hear this, you won't hear a huge volume difference in your ears. You'll just
You'll hear a tonal
hear
difference.
the sound change, and you'll have to trust us on the sound meter that
Yep.
it is much louder.
So that is the pedals working in conjunction with an amplifier that's turned up and doing lovely things.
And
Now,
that is unquestionably the best sound we've had all day.
yeah.
No doubt about it.
So now what's going on there and why it's so different? You've got the preamp working in conjunction with the power amp, and that's working with the transformer and the speaker. Everything is working and pushing, and that's the sound that we love. Completely inappropriate for bedroom
Yeah,
use.
I couldn't even play one chord at
No.
the volume at home. No way.
Be done with. So this is the Friat Power Station, and I've been so excited about this. It's an attenuator. It's a variable reactive load unit. All right, so it's active. But we will do a show on attenuators because we've been asked about that, and we absolutely will. But I wanted to show this unit. So there's the sound using the OCD. Now at the moment,
Yeah, you tell me what to do and
okay,
I'll do it.
So at the moment the power station is in bypass. So if you turn it on,
Give us the OCD again.
so we're going to get there. At the moment, what we've done the power station sits between the head and the cabinet.
Yeah.
So all of the amplifier, the transformer, the valves, all that stuff is still working. But what the power station does is it takes that signal and reduces it, and so it comes out quieter. But one of the things that happens when you attenuate a signal like that is that the EQ can change, specifically because of the way that the speaker's not working the same. The power station has these little EQ options. So if you just, with the at the moment the EQ is set flat, so we've got two switches. We've got a warm switch, which basically looks after the bottom end, and a bright switch, which is the top end. So if you put the bright switch on the bright, and so we've got sort of halfway on with the warm and a bright switch, and now we've got presence and depth controls, which sort of controls the overall.
What I like about those is that it's instant tweakery for whatever cab you're going to use.
Yep.
It's essentially the lower. It's called depth. It's like a resonance control.
Yeah. But so that's the sound, but just quiet. How awesome is that? So at the moment the OCD is on, but this is just the amplifier by itself. So it's breaking up in a way that a lovely valve amp does, but it's really quiet.
But all I can hear is his strings.
Yeah, the guitar acoustically is louder.
Yeah.
So I love it. I love it because you can because you have so much control over the volume and the EQ. It's really great. Like I said before, when I was setting up for the tour and I was using the Yamaha to get the basic sounds together.
Yeah.
But with this, I actually get the sound of the amplifier working. When we did the going with the page between the OCD and the Hampstead, it reacted completely different to both amplifiers.
Sorry, you mean the page between the
bass breaker.
Bass breaker.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the Hampstead.
Yeah.
When I kicked on the page into the bass breaker, it gave this massive volume boost.
Yeah.
But because the Hampstead is compressing, it didn't boost the same. Using the power station, I can turn it down and I can set things up and work with my sounds and practice my parts exactly as it would be at stage volume.
It's an important distinction, isn't it?
It's a massive distinction.
Where when the amp's working hard, the pedals react completely differently from when it's not. Before we finish, we'll do a couple of comparisons between the Hampstead and the bass breaker, and we will do a video on attenuators. Dan said it before, but I'll say it again. We will do a video on attenuators because they're certainly not all the same.
Yeah.
This is among the best of the breed, isn't it? It's certainly the best one I've tried.
Yeah. But the icing on the cake for this,
this is cool.
This is not only an attenuator, but it's a 50-watt valve power amp. So not only can you turn it down, but you can turn it up. Mm-hmm. The Hampstead's 20 watts, and which is awesome. But for those gigs that it's a bit quiet, I can literally crank it. Or if I'm in the studio and I've got like a Fender Champ and I've got this amazing sound from the Fender Champ, I can take the Fender Champ, plug it into that, plug that into a big 2x12, turn it up.
Bosh.
It's incredible.
It's very cool. It's very cool. There's a little bit of noise happening.
Yeah, there's a fan, but there, on the back there's a... There you go. Well, now that's into bypass now, so that's back to...
Yeah, I know. Actually having it on is creating a bit of noise.
Yeah.
Is that
So-
its proximity to transformer the amp, do you think?
Yes, but if on the back there's a little earth lift switch.
Oh, is there? Okay, I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
Right. Let's see. So the question now is, why not just use a small amp? Why
Yes, what's the difference?
why
Yeah.
bother with a big amp attenuated? Why
Yeah.
not just use a small amp? Let's see. Let's compare. I mean, obviously they're completely different cabinets,
Mhm.
but we've got the same pedals, the same guitar. Let's have a little listen between the two and just see.
Sure.
So let's start with the sound of the amp.
So that is just the amp
It's so
attenuated.
quiet.
And now through the bass breaker. So it's a very different thing. What I'm hearing is that lovely amp compression this side. I'm still getting all the zing and top end from from that.
Bigger cab, different speaker, all of those variables we know.
Definitely.
We know.
But there's definitely that element
Yeah.
of the sound of the amplifier that's working.
Get the OCD on then.
Right. OCD into the Hampstead. Yeah.
Okay, and then finally, let's have the OCD through the Hampstead,
Yes.
and I'll see if I can match the gain in the bass breaker. So imagine
Okay.
you weren't using any pedals
Right,
with
okay.
the bass breaker at home.
Great.
Right?
So.
It's not bad.
No, it's great. Look, no question. I think the bass break, I agree with you. For the small Fender amplifier,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
I'm gonna annoy everybody on the internet now and say I'd have that over a Blues Junior
oh, yeah.
every day of the week.
Yeah, yeah. It's got the reverb, it's got that 3-position gain switch is killer.
Mm.
But what I love about this setup is that I can have my gig sound at home. I love that. It's incredible.
And let's qualify that. It's not your gig sound, is it?
You don't have that sound pressure level. You don't get that the interaction between the guitar and the amplifier. There is differences, but the way that the amp works
Yeah.
and reacts to the pedals that I'm putting in front of it,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Okay. Well, that was interesting.
That was so much fun.
Well, this has been a long one, but 4 approaches to playing quietly. We'll just say what we did again. We used this here dB meter, and we used it on the board all the way through in the same position. So we're not saying those were the true decibel readings because it's about 8 feet away from the amp, 7 feet away from the amp, pointing in the opposite direction. So it's really measuring the ambient noise level 8 feet away from the amp, 7 feet away from the amp, which I guess is a pretty realistic place to put it.
But we could talk comfortably over those volumes.
And who knows how accurate it is?
Yeah.
But anyway, it was a constant.
It was.
Yes. So you got the idea. So that's what we did. We went from a small digital amplifier to a computer system to a big amp to a small amp. Four ways of playing quietly at home.
Yeah. So a small amp to a big amp attenuated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you do?
Well, I use the Yamaha
Yeah.
because
I would too.
it's so easy.
Yeah.
It's back, but
The best sound?
Hampstead attenuated. I mean, just
I have to admit, I didn't think it would be.
right.
I
really?
thought it would be like, nah, it's quiet. I just don't care.
Right.
Because I can't get excited about quiet guitar sounds.
Yeah.
All I can hear is the strings and maybe too many years of playing way too loud. But I don't get much inspiration from playing very quietly like that, which is why I don't play a lot at home. But that makes me want to play at home.
Yeah. It's special.
And now I've got to have a conversation with the wife about where the amp's going to go.
Yeah. Oh. You've got it?
Mark Wamboogie. A Bubinga case Wicker Grill.
That awesome. Done.
Done.
Well done. Brilliant, guys. I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you next week.
Cheerio.
Cheers, guys. Bye.